Hello everyone! Professor Chimp here, welcoming you to another new What If story. In case y'all don't know, I work a lot with another popular What If YouTuber known as Smugstick. However, before we worked together, I was just one of his fans. In fact, one of my favorite stories from him was What If Goku was in the MCU? I was fascinated with the idea of placing a popular shonen character into a movie franchise and making it seem both interesting and natural. So, I was inspired to do something in the same vein with two drastically different yet similar franchises, One Piece and the Pirates of the Caribbean. Think of this story as the result of the Disney Corporation acquiring the film rights to One Piece in the West during the early 2000s, incorporating elements of the beloved franchise into the up-and-coming blockbuster pirate film series. Imagine Dragon Ball Evolution, except with pirates, and hopefully it's actually good. Funny enough, I wrote this script several years ago, but I was never really sure when to start working on the video. But with the recent release of the live-action Netflix adaptation of One Piece, it felt even more fitting to work on this story now than ever before. Now, without further ado, let's ask the question: what if Monkey D. Luffy was in Pirates of the Caribbean: Curse of the Black Pearl? Our strange story begins on a starry night, with a massive ship sailing through an unusually thick, gray fog. On board the impressive British naval ship, the HMS Dauntless, a young girl named Elizabeth Swan sings a sea shanty about the pirate life. However, she is quickly chastised by her father, the governor of a wealthy harbor town in the Caribbean Sea known as Port Royal. He shakes his head as he tells her that she shouldn't be thinking about those filthy pirates, let alone sing about them. It is during this conversation that the crew of the Dauntless stumble across the wreckage of a destroyed merchant ship. Elizabeth discovers a lone survivor, a young boy named Will Turner. Uncovering the gold medallion he's wearing with the skull and crossbones etched into it, Elizabeth is afraid he might be a pirate and that the Navy will hang him. She decides to take the medallion and hide it in order to save his life. However, unbeknownst to Elizabeth and the rest of the crew on board the Dauntless, Will Turner wasn't the only survivor of this wreckage. On the other side of the fog, another young boy floats on a piece of splintered wood with a massive gash on his left cheek. 8 years later, Elizabeth and Will have grown into fine young adults. While Elizabeth settles into her station as the daughter of Port Royal's governor, Will becomes a blacksmith. Will is head over heels for Elizabeth, and she harbors feelings for him as well. But their drastically different social status and Elizabeth's familial obligations forces them to never pursue each other, nor their dreams. Elizabeth was destined to be married off to an influential naval officer, and Will was destined to be a simple blacksmith. However, this all soon changes. One day, the infamous pirate Captain Jack Sparrow arrives on Port Royal in search of a suitable ship to steal when he saves an unconscious Elizabeth from drowning in the harbor. Her medallion touches the ocean water, which acts as a beacon, alerting a cursed ship hundreds of miles away. Jack is chased across the island by the British Navy and fights Will in a sword duel until the pirate is knocked out and arrested. Later that night, the legendary ship known as the Black Pearl and its crew, led by Captain Barbossa, lay siege on Port Royal, kidnapping Elizabeth under the assumption that, as the owner of the medallion, she is the daughter of a former crewmate named Bootstrap Bill Turner. In reality, this was Will's father. In order to chase after Elizabeth and rescue her, Will decides he has no choice but to rescue Jack Sparrow and form an unlikely alliance with the mysterious pirate, unaware of the astonishing adventure that was about to unfold. As the Black Pearl drifts across the ocean, several crew members prepare for a dinner between Captain Barbossa and Elizabeth Turner. However, during preparations, two crewmates, Pintel and Ragetti discover a barrel floating in the waters near the ship. Believing that it could contain wine, they use nets to bring it on board. Noticing the quality of the barrel and how heavy it is, they think that it's definitely a wine barrel. A rather valuable one at that. When it comes time for Elizabeth's dinner with Barbossa, the pirate crew makes sure to make a delicious meal for their captive. As Elizabeth chows down on the food, Barbossa reveals to her just who he is and the horrifying Aztec curse he and his crew bear. After showing off his terrifying zombie form in the moonlight, Barbossa attempts to calm down Elizabeth by asking Pintel and Ragetti to bring in that wine barrel they found. This woman needs some good drink to ease her nerves. The pair attempt to open the barrel, but as they do so, the barrel bursts open as a young man emerges from it, accidentally punching the two pirates away as he exclaims, "Yahoo! I'm free!" Everyone at the dinner table is surprised, to say the least. Barbossa demands to know who the hell this stowaway is, as the young man reveals his identity. "Hey there! My name is Monkey D. Luffy. Thanks for saving me. You got any food?" Taken aback by this kid's honesty and guts, Barbossa obliges as he lets Luffy eat a meal, which leads to Luffy happily devouring every morsel of food on sight. Luffy's stomach expands after eating his fill, thanking Barbossa as he asks if he can do anything to repay him for the food and saving him. "Oh, what was your name again, mister?" "My name is Hector Barbossa, but everyone on this ship calls me Captain Barbossa of the Black Pearl." "Alright, thanks, Barb." I prefer you didn't call me that." Barbossa smiles, asking Luffy if he'd like to be a member of his crew. They could definitely use a new chore boy around here. Luffy shakes his head. Sure, he'll clean for as much as he's needed, but he won't be joining anyone's crew. He's gonna become a pirate captain and make his own crew. He'll find the One Piece and become king of the pirates. Barbossa and the rest of the pirates hear this, and they laugh out loud. "The One Piece? A snot-nosed brat like you? The king of the pirates? Well, that's a rather fine joke if I've ever heard one." Luffy doubles down, stating that it's no joke, and he fully intends to become the king someday. Elizabeth, who was taken aback by all the antics Luffy pulled earlier, finally speaks up. What was this One Piece? She's never heard of it before. The pirates continue to laugh as their hysterical captain remarks that, out of all of the fairy tales out there, the One Piece was one of the most ludicrous to believe. Long ago, Goldie Roger, the greatest pirate to ever roam the seven seas, and the only man to ever be recognized as the Pirate King, was captured by the British and sentenced to death. However, on the day of his execution, he made a declaration. The Navy had never found his treasures, and it was still ripe for the taking. He had left everything he owned in one piece. As he laughed, the Navy swiftly executed him in an attempt to silence him, but it was too late. With this bold claim, the hearts and minds of pirates everywhere were ignited as a brand new age of piracy was born. Yet, no matter how many pirates set out to sea, no matter how many years passed, the One Piece was never found. Barbossa finishes laughing as he tells Luffy that only the most naive and idiotic pirates would still believe in the One Piece. In his mind, the One Piece was all one last big middle finger to the British by Roger before he was killed. Finding the One Piece wouldn't even guarantee becoming the Pirate King anyways. That would be decided by the Brethren Court. Yet, Luffy's resolve did not waver. He believed with all his heart that the One Piece was real. He would find it, no matter what it takes. As Barbossa wipes a tear from his eye, he looks at Luffy once more. His uncompromising determination and simple-minded buffoonery reminded him a lot of another idiot he knew long ago. It was endearing, if nothing else. Barbossa declares that if he won't join his crew, then he'd be better off as a meal for the sharks. Barbossa orders his crew to attack as they take out their swords. Elizabeth yells at them to stop, but the pirates charge on. They thrust their swords towards the boy, as they are then launched back, crashing towards the dinner table. Barbossa and Elizabeth are shocked and confused. What the hell just happened? Barbossa orders his men to stop making fools of themselves and make mincemeat out of that monkey. Pintel and Rigetti take out their pistols, firing point blank at Luffy. Elizabeth gasps as Barbossa smirks, until they see it. The two bullets don't pierce Luffy. They don't even get lodged into his chest. His body simply stretches out, as it then bounces back, returning the bullet straight towards the pair. Barbossa, Elizabeth, and the rest of the pirates' jaws drop, aghast at what they just witnessed.
Oh my lord!
You! What the hell are you? You can't be! You're cursed, aren't you?
Yep, I sure am! I'm a rubber man! After seeing the bizarre powers the young lad displayed, Barbossa decides to not attack Luffy anymore. He's far too interesting now to kill. He orders his men to stand down. Luffy will now be one of their special guests, just like Miss Turner. Luffy asks why he should trust Barbossa since he just tried to kill him. But then the captain promises to give him more food tomorrow. Luffy immediately agrees, forgetting everything Barbossa tried to do to him earlier. Luffy is placed in the sleeping quarters with the rest of the crew, given only a single piece of straw to rest on the floor. For the next few weeks, Luffy remains on the Black Pearl, where he becomes a chore boy, cleaning the ship and doing a horrible job of it. During the voyage, he begins to form a friendship with Elizabeth. She learns that Luffy came from a small, rural town in the Caribbean. He spent many years training in the woods, learning how to fight and use his stretching powers before he went to sea. When he decided he was ready to start his grand pirate adventure, he set sail on a small dinghy, which was swiftly destroyed in a typhoon. If he hadn't crawled into his barrel, he would have been a goner for sure. She asks him if he was afraid of dying, but he simply laughs. If he dies, then he dies. At least he'd bite the dust following his dreams. The more the two talk, the more Elizabeth comes to appreciate Luffy's honesty and earnestness. However, the rest of the Black Pearl's crew don't have the same affection for Luffy. In particular, Captain Barbossa's pet monkey despises him, as he and Luffy develop an intense rivalry. The pirates routinely bully the boy, but none of their words seem to bother him. One of the men even throws some booze at Luffy, which he just laughs off. Yet, when the same pirate tries to take Luffy's hat, he immediately becomes aggressive and punches him across the ship. No one is allowed to touch his hat! Luffy's placed in the brig for a day without food as punishment. Later that same night, Elizabeth sneaks into the brig to give Luffy some leftovers from dinner, which he happily accepts. She asks Luffy why that hat is so important to him, as Luffy reveals he made a promise to an old friend that he wouldn't return his straw hat to him until he was king of the pirates. Luffy vowed on that day to keep his promise and explore the world. He would gather a crew, get his own pirate ship, sail the waters of the high seas, and go on fantastic adventures until he became the Pirate King. Elizabeth chuckles, coming to admire Luffy for his bravery and his intense desire to fulfill his dreams. She confides in Luffy that she once dreamed of pirates as a little girl. She yearned to be as free as they are. Instead, she was trapped by her station as the governor's daughter. Luffy tilts his head, as he gives a wide grin. Well, all you gotta do is leave.
It's not that simple, Luffy. I can't just leave. I have an image to maintain and a role to play for my father.
I don't know. It sounds pretty simple to me. You gotta go chase your dreams. No one else can do that for you.
Chase my dreams? No one's ever told me that before. Thank you, Luffy. I'll consider it.
For the first time since being kidnapped, Elizabeth smiles as she wonders aloud if maybe he could be right. Several weeks later, the Black Pearl finally arrives at its destination, La Isla de la Muerta. Pintel and Ragetti inform their captain that the Straw Hat Boy has nearly cleaned out their entire food inventory. Why hadn't they just kicked him overboard already? Barbossa tells his men to shut their traps. He wants to test out a theory of his. On the Isle, Barbossa and his crew gather all the cursed Aztec gold back into its original chest. With this final medallion, they could finally break the Aztec curse. They could be normal men again. But before they perform the ritual with Elizabeth and the final medallion, Barbossa calls up Luffy. He asks Luffy to take one of the medallions from the chest. Luffy asks why, and Barbossa replies that if he does, he'll get some nice, juicy meat. Luffy immediately pounces, stretching out his hand to grab one of the medallions. And nothing happens. Curiously, Barbossa asks if he feels any different, and Luffy shakes his head. Barbossa motions to one of his crewmates to bring Luffy some meat as promised. As expected, Luffy chows down, and he eats it, without any problems. If Luffy really had turned into a zombie, he wouldn't be capable of eating anything. It would have just turned to dust in his mouth. Barbossa smiles mischievously, but he needs to be absolutely sure. To confirm his theory, he then kicks an unsuspecting Luffy to a spot in the rocky cave where the moonlight is illuminating. Luffy asks what the heck his problem is, as the moonlight reflects off of Luffy. Sure enough, he looks perfectly fine. Barbossa chuckles. Looks like his presumption was right. No mortal is allowed to have more than one curse. Any attempts to give someone a second curse results in the first curse canceling it out. Being the honest and naive guy he is, the boy reveals everything. He was cursed by a witch to have a rubber body with an eternal weakness to seawater, destined to one day die by the sea. Barbossa rubs his beard. It seems like no two curses are the same. It really was worth keeping this monkey alive and fed for so long. After this little experiment, Barbossa performs the Aztec ritual as he cuts Elizabeth's hand and drops the last medallion with her blood into the chest. However, after shooting one of his crewmates in the chest, it's revealed that nothing has changed and they are still undead. As Luffy yells at Barbossa, furious that he was willing to shoot his own crewmate, the crew discovers the truth. Elizabeth wasn't Bootstrap Bill Turner's daughter after all. Enraged, Barbossa pistol whips Elizabeth as he orders his men to kill her for wasting his time. She falls towards the ground, knocked out. In an instant, Luffy steps in front of the unconscious girl, telling the pirates of the Black Pearl that if they want to hurt Elizabeth, then they have to get through him first. The captain simply chuckles. He wasn't planning on letting him live anyways. An all-out brawl breaks out as Luffy battles Barbossa's crew. The Rubber Boy's powers were on full display here as he manipulates and morphs his body in ridiculous yet powerful ways. Rapid-fire punches, a stretched-out leg that acts like a sweeping whip, and consecutive punches and kicks that resemble fireworks cracking in the sky. However, no matter how many times the pirates are beaten down, they always stand back up. Luffy is confused. All those hits should have clobbered them. These guys must be tougher than he thought. Barbossa attempts to sneak behind Luffy and stab him in the back with his sword, but Luffy stretches out his fingers, yelling out, "You can't get past my gum shield!" The sword gets caught between Luffy's fingers as they stretch, wrapping around Barbossa's hand as he throws the captain at a group of his crewmates like a bowling ball. The moonlight shines upon Barbossa and his knocked-down crewmates as Luffy finally sees for his own eyes their true form. Luffy's eyes widen as Barbossa chuckles. Is he terrified to see them for what they really are? Luffy's eyes sparkle in delight as he yells out, "Wow! You're zombies? That's so cool! Will you guys join my pirate crew?" Barbossa shouts at Luffy to shut up as they charge in to attack once more. During the chaos, however, Will Turner, who teamed up with Jack Sparrow to reach the island, sneakily swims to the cave where he rescues the unconscious Elizabeth. Eventually, Luffy starts to tire out from the fight while the zombies, with unlimited stamina, are doing just fine. As he wonders just what he can do to defeat these guys, he suddenly realizes that Elizabeth is gone. Thinking that Elizabeth must have walked away during the battle, Luffy has an idea. He decides to use his last, ultimate technique: running away! Barbossa is completely livid. He orders his crew to split up and search every inch of this island for Elizabeth, the medallion, and that stupid monkey. It is as Luffy is running around the island, wondering where Elizabeth could have gone, that he spots someone knocked out near some rocks. He goes over to check if this is Elizabeth, but it's not. It's a dirty man with long, dark brown hair and a short goatee. He slaps the man a little bit as he then sits up, slurring his words as he then asks, "Excuse me, matey, you happen to see a daft idiot in blue around here?" Monkey D. Luffy had met Jack Sparrow for the very first time. Hello everyone! Thanks for watching! That was part 1 of What If One Piece was in Pirates of the Caribbean: Curse of the Black Pearl. I hope you liked it so far. I have the entire script for this movie already completed, so all that's left is to get underway with the rest of the audio and video editing for parts 2 and 3. Speaking of which, I want to give a big thank you to Chris DS for editing this video. This project would not have turned out nearly as good without his help. I also want to thank Eiichiro Yoda for making all the One Piece style drawings of the Pirates cast. He did a phenomenal job, as well as capturing Oda's modern art style. Expect to see even more of his work as the series progresses. Martians and Dragon Ball just recently wrapped up its first season, and I plan on compiling all into one single video. Whenever that releases, make sure to give it a watch. There's going to be a special epilogue at the end of that video that will serve as a transition to the next big arc of that story. What If Universe and I worked hard on that series and would love to hear your thoughts on it whenever that full story Season 1 video drops. Oh, and don't worry, UI Goku Early Season 2 is still in development. I'm setting a goal to release the next arc of that series before the end of the year. Make sure to keep an eye out for that whenever those videos drop. Thank you all again for your support as always for watching my videos. It really does mean a lot. My job constantly keeps me occupied most of the time, but it also does help fund these videos as I don't have the time to devote myself entirely to them these days. Video editors and art commissions don't come cheap, you know. Once I'm done with the next few UI Goku vids, I'll consider setting up a Patreon to help out with costs and release videos earlier. Let me know if that's something you would consider supporting. If you can't, then that's totally fine. Your views and comments are more than enough. Liking these videos and sharing them with your friends who enjoy anime and interesting, wacky stories is one of the best ways to support the channel. Well, that's it for now. Thank you all again for your continued support, and as always, my name is Professor Chimp. Stay safe out there. I hope to see you all next time.